I already have an array of Eufy security cameras here at home, but today we're looking at two of their video doorbells, the C31, which is what you might describe as your sort of typical video doorbell. Nothing fancy. It allows for two-way communication from you and whoever might be at your door. It has a built-in microphone so you can hear them. It has a speaker so they can hear you. Both of these speakers and mics sound exactly the same to me. Quality of the speaker is equivalent to a phone speaker, come laptop speaker, and you'll hear the quality of the microphones later on in the video when I demonstrate the video and audio quality. But yeah, this is a 2K sensor for your video, but just like with their security cameras, the image is heavily compressed to save space. Now, one of these has an SSD, which is this one, in fact, because it literally says SD card. That would go in there, and the other one is eMMC, which means it's onboard storage and it cannot be upgraded. But anyway, let's look at the basic one first, because the better one has everything the basic one has plus some extra features. So 2K resolution, two-way communication, infrared LEDs for night vision. Again, you'll see this later. And obviously motion detection using a PIR sensor. And this is to save battery rather than continuously recording video and comparing frame to frame for changes. They just use PIR sensors, which means you can get slightly late triggering, but you know, they're wireless, and that's one of the trade-offs you have to make. But you don't have to power it wirelessly, I might add. Each of them has two screws on the back here, which will allow you to hardwire it into an existing doorbell installation. If you've already got a powered doorbell at home and it operates between 10 and 24 volts, I think it is, you can just remove the switch where your old doorbell is on your door and those two wires and join them straight onto here. They provide two little kits to enable you to do that. And that is a really nice feature because that gives you a video smart doorbell for just the price of the unit itself. If you haven't got to monkey about with additional wiring, you can literally just wire it straight in. You do have to keep a battery in at the same time. You can't leave the battery out. The batteries are hot swappable. So if you wanted to buy a spare one to keep charged, you could, because total charging time is about 8 hours from flat, and they have a charger built into the battery itself. So you just plug your USB-C in the bottom there. Comes with a USB-C cable, but no charger. Other things it comes with: screws and rule plugs, quick start guide, and then your back cover that you would screw to your front door or your door frame, and then your camera clips into it like that. There is then a little tool for releasing it, a bit like a SIM tray removal tool. You might just be able to see it in the bag there, that you would poke in this hole at the top to release the clip to get it off again, for if you do use it wirelessly and need to recharge the battery. There's also a little 45-degree, actually I don't know why I called it a 40, well I suppose it's kind of, there's an angled bracket that will allow you, yeah, it's not 45 degrees at all, that will allow you to mount it sort of ever so slightly at an angle in case there's obstacles that you need to clear in the path of the camera lens. So that is how you would install them, super simple. That is the features of this most basic one. It doesn't really do a whole lot. It is Alexa compatible, so and Google Home and some other virtual assistants, so you can have them, and this applies again to both of them, you can have it so when you press the doorbell, not only does this chime itself, and if you're using one of the Eufy home bases, that will chime, you can have the smart speakers around your house chime to tell you that someone's at the door. In fact, I'll put a clip of this up to demonstrate it. It's quite funny because it doesn't say, like, you give these names, so like, front door, back door, side door, whatever you want to call it. Alexa doesn't read out the name you've assigned it. It reads out the model number. And by the model number, I mean the full model number, as in like T82235K 12 foot blah, 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 blah. So you watch this clip, it's quite funny.
Someone is at the T8214510242988F4.
Yeah, you see what I mean? So rather than saying someone's at the front door, it tells you the actual model number of the doorbell that you're using, which is quite amusing. And in my Alexa app, it is named appropriately in there. It isn't given its part number name. So it's just a quirk that it does. But I mean, that's Alexa speaking to me now because I've just been using her name. So that's pretty much everything for this basic doorbell. It's what you'd want in a doorbell. You know, you can see when someone approaches, it triggers, it lets you know through the app on your phone. Nothing much to it. Installing these software-wise is just a case of scanning the QR code on the box with the Eufy app. That will then put a QR code on the screen of your phone, and then the doorbell camera scans that QR code and it adds itself to your list of devices, and you go through a quick sort of step-by-step setup. Really easy, really quick, no problems whatsoever. So that's the software install, really easy. I won't take you through the software itself because there are 40 or 50 different options and things you can tweak around and play with, and routines and settings and volumes and sensors and calibrate. It's you know, it would be a 40-minute video in itself just going through the software. So just be happy to know that there's probably everything you would ever need in the software there to make all the adjustments you want. You know, choose the zone you want, motion to be monitored in, exclude areas, different ringtones or chimes. It's all in there, just like you would expect. You know, set it to activate between certain hours only. Maybe you don't want it going off during the night, or maybe you only want it to warn you during the night. You know, it's all available. It's all in there, and you can monitor your battery life of the devices themselves as well. The software is, because it's so fully featured, shall we say, it's not the most user-friendly. Again, another reason why it's not easy for me to demonstrate it is because there's so much to go through and so many sub-menus within menus. It's just a bit of a ball ache. But once you've got it all set up, you know, you don't really have to touch it after that. What else was I going to say? Oh, battery life. I touched briefly on being able to see your battery life on the phone. Eufy, and I've scoured their website for both the C31 and the E340, they don't give you an estimated battery life. And this makes sense because it will depend upon its installation, not where it is, but how much activity it gets every day, how many times it's triggered every day. If you trigger it 100 times a day, it's going to last nowhere near as long as someone who lives out in the middle of nowhere and never leaves the house, and it gets triggered maybe once a day. The battery life is directly proportionate to the physical activity it has to do, how much it's monitoring, because it isn't monitoring the video until the PIR is triggered. It's pretty much sitting there doing nothing, putting out a passive infrared signal, and you know, using very little power. So yeah, no estimated battery life. Obviously I can't tell you one because I've not had them. Well, I installed them, as you'll see in a little while, using double-sided tape side by side to test them so that we could do back-to-back testing. So that is the C31 and its sort of basic features and functionality, and that comes in. Actually, we'll do pricing in a bit. We'll look at the next one, the E340. Obviously it looks very, very similar, but this one has an additional camera at the bottom. It also has two LED floodlights and an LED floodlight on the top. So the idea of this, and again you'll see this in the footage I put up in a minute, is that it can not only monitor, you know, people walking to and fro, it can see your doorstep. It can see when people deposit packages, and it can also see when people come and pick up packages. One of the features you can do with the E340 is if a package has been delivered, you can tell it to then respond to an individual who might be attempting to steal that package. If it sees someone come and pick the package up and attempt, you know, literally lift it up, you can have it sort of vocalize a pre-recorded message as if you're there, and it will do that kind of instantly whilst you have time, of course, to read a notification on your phone going, oh, someone's at the door, and bring up the live feed, and then you can physically intervene yourself. But you know, I mean, how useful that will be, I imagine most thieves, if they're stealing packages off doors, don't hang about to listen for messages. They probably see a package, have a quick goosey around, grab, leg it. They're going to be gone before it triggers and says anything. But the function's there should you want to play around with it. This one also has the ability to detect between humans, animals, vehicles. This is all part of their AI functionality, as they call it. I think that may work. Some of that's limited to if you've got it connected to a home base unit, because these can connect either via the Eufy home base or over your home Wi-Fi network. You don't have to have a Eufy home base. So other features this has, aside from that down-facing camera, is of course the floodlights. So instead of using night vision only, it can light up. I was a little curious, and you'll see this in the videos, why they didn't have a front-facing light to illuminate the subject directly. You know, the top one literally points up, and the ones on the bottom literally point down. I'm like, why is there not one in the middle, just lighting up the person that stood at your door? Now, they don't do a reasonable job, they don't do a bad job, sorry, of illuminating you, as you'll see from the footage in a second, but it just seemed like a bit of a weird design choice. So again, this one has the same 2K resolution main camera. I don't actually think it says what the bottom camera resolution is, but interestingly, and again, as you'll see in the footage, the lower camera, the one that points down at your step, actually seems to give better image quality than what the main camera does. Certainly the images look brighter and clearer to me anyway. But yeah, so there's your additional features with this one. Extra camera, extra lights, and that's, well, yeah, that's pretty much it really. So now I think, yeah, let me show you how I installed them and how I tested them. Let me run that video of me installing them. Well, showing you where I've stuck them. So what I've done is put them both side by side temporarily, just stuck there with double-sided tape. That way we can compare the images and the microphones from each doorbell with identical triggers. Yeah, so you can see why I've put them there and why I've done it, so we can test it. So now let's get into the footage of each of these cameras in different circumstances. We'll start with each of the cameras' viewpoints of what you just saw me talking to you guys, so you can hear the sound. We'll start with the E340. Let's have a little look and listen to that. Both side by side temporarily, just stuck there with double-sided tape. That way we can compare the images and the microphones from each doorbell with identical triggers and inputs. So here I am, obviously stood, I don't know, an arm's length from the front door. This sort of wooden frame here is blocking the view from this side a little bit, but again, there was nowhere for me to temporarily stick them. It needed to be a flat surface, so that was the easiest way to do it, and it's in view of my doorstep, so you can hear the audio and you can see the quality. And I'll take a stroll, and now let's compare that to the C31. Both side by side temporarily, just stuck there with double-sided tape. That way we can compare the images and the microphones from each doorbell with identical triggers and inputs. So here I am, obviously stood, I don't know, an arm's length from the front door. This sort of wooden frame here is blocking the view from this side a little bit, but again, there was nowhere for me to temporarily stick them. It needed to be a flat surface, so that was the easiest way to do it, and it's in view of my doorstep, so you can hear the audio and you can see the quality. And I'll take a stroll. So as you can see, not a huge amount of difference really in the video quality or the audio quality, although I'm interested in one of those cameras, when I play back the footage, I think it's the E34 actually, depending what application I use to play it back on my PC, the sound is distorted. Now hopefully when I import this into Adobe Premiere to put this video together, it plays okay. Otherwise you're going to hear that distortion. Now when I use VLC player to play it back, it was fine. When I play it back on my phone, it was fine. It was just media player on Windows that for some reason didn't seem to like it. But I'm hoping Adobe will play it back okay. Otherwise, you're going to hear that little. It's just, well, it just sounds a bit distorted. I don't know why. Anyway, let's move on to the next sample, because what you might have noticed in that video clip, if you were paying attention to my lip movements, is that the sound was out of sync with the video on both samples from both cameras. So what I did was a second test just to verify whether this was something that's going to happen all the time or that was just a one-off. So let's now have a look at that on the E340. So this is the second test to see whether my video is in sync with my audio on both devices. And this is my cat, Ori. Still out of sync. And now let's have a look on the C31. So this is the second test to see whether my video is in sync with my audio on both devices. That one was actually in sync. So out of 4 videos so far, only one of them's been in sync with the video, which is not the best. One other thing I should probably show you is how the sort of delivery camera works, the one that points at the step. I know you could see my legs in the previous video, but I'll show you a quick one of me, placing a delivery on my doorstep, just so you can kind of see how it would work if someone was actually delivering something to your doorstep. Delivery! And again, we may as well look at the same one on the C31, just so you can see what it looks like without a camera pointing down. Delivery! Yeah, obviously missing, the bottom extremities, doesn't point down at the box. And also that one triggered quite late compared to the E340. But also, if you're watching this video on anything that's got a decent screen size, probably even a computer monitor would be fine, you'll see how compressed the video is. We've got decent resolution sensors here, so we could have quite good detail, but unfortunately they compress the file sizes so small. Like we're talking let's have a look at, in fact I've got them here, 5 meg, 2.5 meg, 10 meg, 3.8 meg, and the longest one, which was the video me talking about it being installed, 15.5 meg. These are ridiculously small file sizes for 2K video, and the only 2 choices you have in the app for adjusting the video quality is 1080p H.264 codec or 2K, and then they call it ultra efficient, high efficiency. No, it isn't the high efficiency video codec, HEVC, or maybe it is, but either way, they have set the compression to focus on file size. And so, yes, you can store more video clips on your devices, but the quality is so poor, especially at night time, which we'll see in a minute, it really is to its detriment. Now, for me, who has a home base with a pair of hard drives in, I really would like to have had the option to choose a compression, bit rate that isn't so ridiculously low and actually have much better video quality. But those options just aren't there, unfortunately. And maybe it's something they can add in the future. I don't know, but currently it isn't. It was the same with my video cameras as well. Anyway, let's have a quick look at some nighttime footage now. We'll go with the C31, which has no lights, first of all. Again, this is your basic sort of video doorbell functionality, and if you know the person that's at the door, you're going to be able to recognize them. The infrared works fairly well. Now let's have a look at the E340 night vision only, so no LEDs on. Again, similar sort of quality here, much like you would expect. And then finally, we'll look at the E340 in colour night mode. So that's when it's got its LEDs on. Again, curious why they didn't have one pointing directly out at the subject, but not too bad. I think that's my preferred use. When I install this properly, I will leave it on colour vision. So there's all your sample video footages. There's all your different features between the two doorbell cameras. They're decent, but the video quality, just like of their actual security cameras, disappoints me, because there's no reason for it to be that compressed, especially if you have a home-based unit like me, or even the one, is it the C31 that we can put our own storage in. You can just put larger storage in if you're worried about running out. Give us the choice to have a decent video quality image. You know, when you're streaming it live to your phone, not as important. It's more about getting the information across in a timely fashion. We don't want too much lag sitting there waiting for it to load while someone's, you know, trying to break into your door or something. But as far as the actual recordings go onto your home-based unit or onto the internal storage, give us the choice to have it high quality. There's no point boasting a resolution of 2K if you compress the video down so much it looks terrible. So daytime footage, not too bad because there's plenty of light. Night vision footage when, you know, subjects are up close, not too bad. And the color one, yeah, somewhere in the middle. But you can see, if you watch this on a television, you'll see how bad that compression is. But, you know, they do exactly what they're supposed to do. The installation on the Eufy app was really easy. There's a shed load of customization should you want to play around with things. And they seem to function just fine in my limited testing so far. With my cameras that I've got 4 of, they do occasionally not trigger when I walk past one or drive past one. I think I said in my review, 7 or 8 out of 10 times they do get me, and, you know, 2 or 3 times they don't. It's probably more like 9 out of 10 times now I've had them a little longer. So yeah, they do work just fine. And if you want one just to keep an eye on your front door, catch the delivery guy, you know, tell him to leave your package around the back or wherever it is, then yes, they're both going to do the job just fine. Prices, the E340, which is the dual camera one, on the Eufy website is $159.99. C31, so your more basic video doorbell, $89.99. But if we look on Amazon, the E340 is down from $159.99 to £95, and the C31 is down from $89.99 to $64.99. Because I was going to say those prices are very strong for doorbells. £160 for a doorbell. I mean, yes, it's technically a security camera in a doorbell format, but it's still a lot of money. But those prices, 95 and what did I say, 60? 95 and 65, much more affordable. Anyway, I think that's pretty much covered everything. Hopefully you found this video helpful. There will be links in the description to both of these. There'll be links to Amazon, because you ain't going to buy them from Eufy when the price is so much cheaper on Amazon. And yeah, as always, thank you very much for watching, and take it easy.